Welcome to Violet Crush Month 3. I've done a little prepping because this block requires a lot of little pieces. Once again, it is still very important to label everything. And once you get finished using those, then you label your smaller sets. So let's get started. We need a 4-inch square of fabric J, K, and L. We're going to mark diagonal lines on that. Once again, I will be using my sandpaper board. Before you get started, I suggest you check your bobbin because I just had to replace my bobbin thread. I do use pre-wound ones, so you may go through a little more than I do if you wind your own. After this set of blocks, I'm going to suggest that you change your needle before you start the next month. Now we're going to put these on fabrics B, E, and K. I'm sorry, that's for the 3-inch. We do the 3 inches the same time we do this. It's a little late in the day and somebody is getting tired. So we'll get a B and an E. I already have my one pulled out for the K. Set these aside for right now. And mark these 3, and as you can tell, they look very similar. After you've done as many of the pieces as I have, you begin to remember which fabric is which, but I still like to look, double check, triple check, make sure I'm getting them in the right places. So fabric B goes on an O, and everything that we're using, all your instructions tell you exactly which pieces to join. So we're going to use an A with our L. Line those up. We're going to use the H with the J. And we're going to use the N with a K. That gets our big pieces. Our little ones all go on an O. Let's pull 2 of those out. Line these up, and then we will just chain sew all of these so we can get them done quickly. You're going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of your drawn line. If you're more comfortable putting a 1/4 inch line on each side, do so. I don't find it's necessary. Double check your 1/4 inch seam to make sure you are doing a 1/4 inch. Let's get our next one here. And before I start on the smaller ones, I want to flip these around and do the other side. Make sure your thread goes under your presser foot. Before cutting these off, I'm going to go ahead and start the small ones. This not only saves a little thread, it also saves some time. The best thing about the batiks, there's no right side, wrong side, even though your instructions do show you that there is a difference. Takes a few minutes to do this. Okay, let's put an ender on here and we will take those off and press and trim. I'm going to use my cutter here. Now we're going to set our seams and then we'll cut apart and trim. Trim on your drawn line. Let's go ahead and trim our large ones. I had already put some of these together so that it wouldn't take so long to show the finished product. If you've looked at your pattern, you will see that there's like a reverse of the pattern. There's 4 of one coloration and 4 of another. So now let's press these open. still like to press with the dark side on top. Pressing area is a little small. You can see how similar some of these fabrics are. Without having them labeled, it's very difficult to tell what is what. I still like to just let the iron push open the seam. And I do suggest pressing with an iron, not one of the little rollers, because they stretch the fabric and you don't want to be stretching your fabric. Okay, now let's label these so that we don't lose what we're doing. This is 1A, 1B, and 1C. And these are 2A, 2B, and 2C. Now we need to trim all of those to 3.5 inch and trim all these to 2.5 inch. And I happen to have a 3.5 inch and a 2.5 inch ruler, and I have put Handy Grip on the back, which is a little sticky thing so you can trim without your fabric sliding. So I'm going to line up on this center line. There's not a lot to trim, but we do need to trim to make sure they're all the same size. It's easier to do this standing up and with a rotating mat. Because as you can see, I'm not getting enough pressure. So let's see how we can get along here. There's a lot of the pieces that we had to cut in half diagonally. Be very careful with those when you're moving them around so that you don't stretch them. Still didn't get the dog ears off that one. Okay. Let's put that back with its label. Make sure you label, 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 label. You cannot keep track of it if it's not labeled. I'm only going to do a couple of these because, as I said, I've already pre-made some pieces so that it doesn't make the video so long. All the instructions are very straightforward and easy. I didn't have to make any corrections on anything I've done so far. The fabric is really nice. easy to work with. I haven't had the first piece have a frayed edge, which is very nice. So trim up these last two at 3.5, and then the others get trimmed at 2.5. And I know that not everybody has all these rulers. I've been doing this a long time, so I have a lot of rulers. And I actually have the AccuQuilt system that I would have loved to have used on this, but I just didn't have the time to sit down and figure out which dies it would take to do all the cutting. But I did use them on my cutting my strips. That way I knew they were accurate and it was faster. Okay, that's all of those. Let's clean up our mess before we start the others. Yes, my floor is covered with little bitty pieces, but we'll deal with that later. This is my 2.5 inch. It also has the center line. Just put that on there. And I put the handy grip on it so that it's not sliding, because it's very difficult to trim with a ruler that wants to slide away from you. These are such pretty pieces. I did a sample of each block, but I'm really anxious to see what the block looks like in its correct colors. These all look so similar that it's very difficult to keep them separated. Make sure you keep some. It's not a bad idea to take the sheet that comes with the pattern that shows all the fabrics and cut just a little piece of each fabric and tape to that and put it in front of your machine so that you can quickly determine which fabric is which. I found that that was very helpful, especially with block 1. That's the most intricate block that we did. So I can tell you it's pretty much downhill from here. They get a little easier each month. One more set and we'll move on. Let me check the camera here and make sure I have enough battery, and it looks like I don't. So as soon as I trim this, I'm going to have to stop and we'll pick it up after I get the camera charged. Okay. I'll be back in just a few. Thank you.